Welcome back to another episode of the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast, where we talk about everything drones and the people that use them in the Caribbean. And jumping right in, we have with us today the CEO, co-founder, and creative director of LunaLite Drone Show Technologies, Mr. Adrian Allen. Enjoy. Good afternoon, Adrian. How you going, man? Thank you for coming on to the podcast.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Alan.
Not a problem. For the audience members that aren't familiar with you, how about you go ahead and introduce yourself for me?
All right. So my name is Adrian Allen. I am CEO and creative director with LunaLite Drone Show Technologies. And what we do is we tell stories in the sky in the Caribbean region, North, Central, and South America.
Cool. Nice one. Adrian, how did you get your start in the drone space? Is LunaLite your first introduction to the drone space?
So I've had a production company for 25 years now called Steady Image Media Group. And we've executed campaigns for cruise lines, tourist boards, music festivals, small and large corporations here in Miami, Atlanta, and throughout North America. And so drones have been a part of our space since the inception. Actually, before even DJI came out, we had quadcopters that we would have built that probably cost $20,000-$30,000 for us to connect. Or at that time, it was Canon 5D when Canon 5D was the thing, and for us to kind of rig it in that way. And then DJI came out with the Phantom and so on. So we've used drones in our storytelling for over that time for filming and photography purposes. And storytelling just always has been our background, right? And we felt like coming out of the pandemic that we needed to transition into another form of storytelling. And one of the things that we knew well was UAVs. And drone light shows was in alignment with what we had planned.
Okay. So that sort of like the natural transition into extending the creative space and storytelling space that you guys were already in.
That's right. So it's a merger of the technology and also being able to tell stories in a different way, in a more impactful way, actually.
Yeah. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. So break it down for me. You guys recently did 2 shows in Carnival in Trinidad for Carnival 2025. Right. And a lot of people come to me and ask me, how do drone shows work? Because the first impression some people have who don't really know how to be behind the scenes of it is they think that there's one person controlling each one of those drones. Right. So for the persons that are not familiar with it, how do drone shows work? Give us the behind the scenes as much as you could without, giving out too much of the
Well, would you be surprised, Alan, that I would say every 3 individuals that ask us how it works, they do think that there is individual controlling. But drone shows is very tech heavy, right? It's the technology of having autonomous drones or UAVs, for that matter, be able to perform in a synchronized, stable way is definitely not an easy feat, right? Our manufacturers, this had spent years in developing the technology. We are one of the first in this side of the hemisphere to actually activate the technology. So it's, even though the drones are operating in different weather scenarios and a lot of technical attributes in terms of how it comes together in a safe way and executed, is reliant on servers and switches and software. And definitely not 500 people for the case of voice and humor. We had 500 drones, but it's predominantly based on programming the show, designing it, and executing on location via our server and computers and so on.
Okay. So how long does that process take? I mean, the shows are usually 15 minutes max, but what does it lead up to?
No, actually, our technology could actually run our technology could actually run for 21 minutes, right? In terms of the battery life. And that is going to increase as times go by. But at the same breath, it's like, who wants to, like a fireworks show? By the time if a fireworks show was to last 30 minutes, you'd be incredibly bored, towards the end of the show. So I think drones, in terms of an experience for others, 15 minutes is a sweet spot. But if the event is solely based on the LunaLite's show as the entertainment package, and it's not just a part of something, then we could go as long as 21 minutes. But 15 minutes would be the sweet spot in terms of engagement with an audience.
Yeah. So that process in terms of getting a drone show done, what does that look like? I come to you and say, hey, I'm having an event. I want to display, whatever it is.
Okay, so let's get a scenario. So Alan from Pirates of the Caribbean says he wants to do a drone show for Carnival 2026, right? So what that looks like is 3 months prior to that, we develop a 2D storyboard and we share it with Alan, and Alan says, okay, Adrian, we like 12 of the 15 images. Can we change this? Can we change that? We make those amendments. Then we go back and we program and design the show, which takes us about, I said, 2 weeks in designing and then maybe another week in programming. And then we build a file that we then ingest into the server and in our software on location. And then we hit a button. But there's a lot of the preparation in terms of setting the geozone, the geofence, and a lot of safety parameters that are very similar to what a pilot with a Part 107 license would do, whether you're flying a DJI or, this other drone that we bought the other day that literally I can't remember the name of it, but the same parameters that you would have to pay attention to as it relates to federal aviation rules or civil aviation rules in Trinidad. All of those things are somewhat the same. But in terms of a big part of drone shows when executing a show, believe it or not, 50% of it is the safety aspect of it, right? So obviously, we're not flying in wind that's higher than 80 miles per hour. We're not flying in rain. We're not flying in, I think probably those would be the biggest of the two, strong wind and rain. And but in any other condition, we're able to execute a show. So we go from 2D storyboard approval from the client to building the actual design of the show in a 3D space.
Okay.
In some instances, you could even use Blender or Maya or Cinema 4D or one of these other programs, and then we ingest it into our proprietary software, and we program it for flight. We get to Trinidad. We lay out the drones. We have to make sure that all the drones are 1 meter apart. So once they're performing the show, there's no collision issue. Or technology or drones has prop guards on them. So in the event something did happen, it doesn't become catastrophic, as it would with other suppliers in the space. But so once we get there and we go through safety checks with the team and we talk about, how to lay out drones and just make sure that we're following the rules of the Civil Aviation Authority.
How many persons, or what does that team look like in carrying out a 500 drone show?
So I'd say in the case of Voice in Trinidad, we had about 12 individuals that came to participate. But usually when you have 1,000 drones, we usually have maybe 20, 25 entities that come out to execute.
So there's a big production and all the coordination and stuff required.
Yeah. It's a very logistics heavy and entity or logistics heavy operation is the best term for that.
Oh yeah, and what's the process to get 500 drones shipped around? What is that? You have FedEx? You can just send that in, send it on a plane.
Listen,
what is that?
I've told a friend of mine that if I was not to do any drone shows anymore, my next business venture would be cargo shipping. Because I promise you, 80% of our time we're focused on cargo shipping. It's a monster. It's a beast. It takes a lot to get it done. And that's another reason why drone shows are also pricey, because one, you're dealing with drones that are expensive. Our drones are like $1,500-1,800 US per drone. So, you're looking at a fleet of 1,000. You're talking about $1.8-2 million just in the drones itself. You're not talking about the RTK, GPS RTK to support stability with the drones and the, the server, ground control is what we call it. Then we have, so we have also, we call them APs, which are pretty much radios, I guess, for lack of a better word. And those connect the drones to the servers. And then we have the RTK GPS that connect to about 33 satellites and to the drone to make sure that everything is like solid, But to answer your question, so the shipping, once we send drones, let's say we're doing a show for you in Trinidad on the 10th of April, then we're sending the drones from the 1st of April. Then we execute your show. And then we send the drones back. So the drones will come back until the 20th of April. So now you're looking at 20 days that have been gone because of, right? So that, the cost of the equipment and just the technology itself and in executing it, it's not an easy feat. So it just tends to be a pricey situation. But shipping is a beast. It's a monster. And that's why we always joke and say that we're running a logistics company.
Not a drone nitro company. Exactly. And I think I would get some angry phone calls if I do ask you this question. Ballpark, what are we looking at for a full or 500 drone light show?
Okay, so the best way I can answer that is to say that the industry for drone shows are at $200 per drone, 200 US per drone. Okay. So you can, a 500 drone show could run you, what's that, 100,000? A 1,000 drone show could run you 200,000. But in building relationships and in wanting to introduce the technology into new spaces such as Trinidad, we worked with voice. We went into it from a partnership point of view. Okay. I mean, obviously there's a cost, which I can't disclose, but it's, it's new. This drone light shows, even though it's been around for 4 years, actually maybe even longer than that, because if people remember, the very first drone show that took place happened at Super Bowl, where Pepsi did this formation of their Pepsi logo.
Pepsi logo, yeah.
Right. I think it was the same year that, not sure if Lady Gaga or someone jumped out of a plane or something. But now over the past year and a half, 2 years, it really has kicked off in terms of like people understanding what drone light shows are, appreciating it, and the fact that the stories that you could tell within the drone light show space is unlimited. For our region, one of the reasons why LunaLite has been within the Caribbean space a lot is, telling from my accent, I'm from Jamaica. My business partner, who is also the co-founder, is Artur Lord. He's from Panama. Okay. And we've, over the past 25 years in our production company, we've been working with clients from the region. And then now we just understand the cultural language. We know how to, so when voice reaches out to us and say, hey guys, can you execute an amazing drone light show for the carnival season? All right, no problem. That's easy. My wife is from Trinidad. In-laws are from Arima. I'm from Jamaica, right? So we I've played in carnival in the past, so we get it, Yeah, so we just kind of apply that influence into what we're building for the client. I just came back from St. Thomas, not to date the podcast, but yesterday, whatever that is. And we're actually doing a drone show for the St. Thomas Carnival on the 28th of April. So we're working on owning the space, especially for carnival activation. We're working on doing that.
So in terms of the amount of drones you would have to maintain that, because let's say you have them out and they take a while to get around and back to you, that means you would have to like have thousands of drones to be able to send all over the place, right?
Right. So right now our fleet is about 1,500 at the moment.
Okay.
And but within the next few months, we're probably, by the end of the year, we'll scale to about 4,000 drones by the end of this year. Wow. For sure. Yeah. So we will be doing a 4,000 drone show. Nice. I'll let you know. Don't worry, I won't let you miss that one. I'll make sure you're there.
How has the experience been dealing with all the different civil aviations, FAA? I'm not sure what they have in South America and Latin America in general, but dealing with their different rules and regulations to get stuff done, especially in the Caribbean, where we have all these different islands that would have the different allowances and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, I'm kind of happy I asked that question, and I'm going to be very careful in my answering. Is that put it this way? I would say what I've learned over my years of doing business is I don't know what I don't know, right? But then I deal with it in that accord. So because drone light shows are new, and civil aviations tend to follow the guidelines of the Federal Aviation Authority based out of the United States, it does make things a little bit easier, because one of the things that they're going to ask you for is a Part 107 license, right? No, a Part 1, just like yourself, you have a Part 107. Yeah. And so that's one part of it. But then you have another part of it where you may deal with a civil aviation where by the time you're done, you're essentially sending them a manual on the execution of a drone light show. And it's painful in some moments, but I think for the long run, it works out because they have what they need to make sure that the operation within their country is safe and there's no incidents, especially everyone knowing that there was an incident that happened by another drone show supplier in Orlando. So now that has changed the game a lot in terms of how people deal with safety. But we pride ourselves as one of the safest drone light shows companies in the space. And so with that on our track record and what our clients say about us in terms of how we operate, it does help in terms of communicating with civil aviation. But every civil aviation for every island, it's something different. I will say that the most stringent request has come from Trinidad, and we worked almost 2 years communicating with the civil aviation there, and we've built a really good relationship, and we just do what we ask. We try to provide them with as much information as possible so that, again, they have what they need to be able to make a decision to say, okay, Adrian and the LunaLite team, here's our permission for you to go ahead and operate within the Queen's Park Savannah. And thank you for following the protocol. And they will come out and, be very militant in making sure that what you say you're going to do on paper is what you actually do in person.
2 years, I say.
Yeah. Well, the very first time we came to Trinidad for Machel Montano's show, February 2023.
Yeah.
That was the one show. That was the one show. The drones were held in customs and they didn't even allow us to take them out, much less get authorization to execute. But that was a lesson learned, no problem. We came again and they provided us an exemption, because one of the things that people don't realize, with Trinidad specifically,
Mhm.
is that the laws of Trinidad is actually what dictates one drone to one pilot.
Yep.
So they were giving us authorization for one drone, but one drone would not do the job. So them in giving us an exemption and taking a chance is greatly appreciated for sure. But I think there is maybe some lobbying going on to really try and get them to change those laws, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for Barbados, Jamaica, St. Vincent, St. Kitts, Cayman, you name it. They're all doing drone shows. They're all, using the technology to create that excitement. And Trinidad, why, there's no reason for them to be left out of that. So
yeah,
that's a hope for them as well, from what I understand, is that the laws can be changed so it could be easier for them to do their job.
Well, I hope so, because there are also some other aspects in the drone space, that we could benefit from an update of the laws. Things like agricultural spraying and archiving currently aren't allowed. So hopefully with some sort of modification to the laws, hopefully coming not in the not too distant future, we could have, some different processes or of ways of getting that done.
Wait, that's not allowed?
No, it is not.
Agricultural spraying with UAVs is not allowed in Trinidad?
No, it's not. The response that we've got when we've asked about it is that it is covered under manned aircraft operation, and there's nothing in the unmanned aircraft operations guidelines that provides for it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I shouldn't feel like we're being targeted, right?
No, it's not just you.
It's not drone shows.
Yeah.
It's all. I got it. Okay, that I did not know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, even things like licenses, there's a provision in the law that speaks to licenses, but we don't have like a licensing structure currently in place. So hopefully all of those things come in not too distant future.
So what's going to happen once, aero robotics and just robotics in general? I mean, if the laws aren't changed, then you guys are going to be in a bit of a problem.
Yeah, we're going to get left behind.
Because every other island, Barbados, I know, we actually did some consultation. So where our main technology is drone light shows, but we do consultation for other types of UAV operations. So for example, in Jamaica, we just advise on using UAVs to do spraying for mosquitoes for disease control, right? So but Jamaica doesn't. I know that they're not having any challenges, legal challenges or issues that need to be cleared by the government.
Yeah, a lot of like Barbados does it. Guyana's doing it in a massive way, crop spraying, and we can't here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But from your history of operating LunaLite, what has been your most challenging experience with getting a drone show done?
So the biggest challenge for us in executing a drone show, good question. Well, if I must be frank, is that we're probably, we were. I think there's another company from Dominica, I believe, that just has a small fleet. Saw them pop up recently. But we are one of the only drone light shows companies in the space that are people of color, right?
Right.
And so I'm just being very blunt in terms of that can affect us, and it has affected us in terms of us being chosen as, a drone light show company that can get the job done. We're past that now, but other challenges such as, like in our first early stages, we had a small fleet. We started with 90 drones. It's a very expensive business. And then if you have 90 drones, it's just like having a DJI, and maybe after a few months, I don't know, you may need to change something, or something might be going wrong with it. So when you have 1,000 or 1,500 drones, you're going to expect that one or two drones here and there will go by.
Yeah.
So, So aside from, being able to win a job over, maintain your equipment, purchase enough drones to do good shows, because now we don't really do shows that are less than 200 drones.
Right.
It one of the things that it would inhibit us would be having enough of a fleet to service the industry. So to your point,
Yeah.
if I send off half of my fleet to Trinidad for a show, and there's another job here that could be executed, then we just can't do it because it's just not here. So we have to wait for it to come back. So that right now is really one of our biggest challenges, because we're actually getting more requests now than we do in terms of a fleet. But we have partners that we work with in New Jersey, Mexico, and I believe there's another entity that uses our same technology that'll be based in Atlanta. We try to create a community. So if a job can be done, if Alan from Pirates of the Caribbean wants to do a drone show and LunaLite's is not available, then we would probably refer that out. But that is currently our biggest challenge right now, which is fine. And we're growing in a sustainable way, and we want to kind of keep it that way. But other than that, just the regular day-to-day challenges that you would run into, like doing a drone show in Jamaica, and the cargo company decides to bump your cargo off the plane because we're taking up so much space that they may have another client who is using less space, but paying them double the money, right?
Yep.
So, and then we've had to have, I'll give you a nice little story. We went to St. Vincent to do a drone show for cricket. This was West Indies versus Pakistan, I believe. Yes. So we did a show there, but at the same time, we had another show in Miami. So we had two teams. We could actually execute 3 drone shows on the same day. We have 3 strong separate teams, and we're building up more teams. And what happened was the airline bumped our cargo, and because it was on the weekend, they weren't able to, it was closed. So they bumped it and it's there. So it's not as if we could have went in and took it and put it on Caribbean Airlines or put it on another form of way of getting it over there. So since we were in St. Vincent and we had already executed the cricket show, the client had to hire a private jet in Dominican Republic, because this event that they were doing was so important to them that they literally spent more money in the shipping of getting the drones there than they did for the drone show.
Yeah.
But they hired a private jet. They flew a pilot from Miami to Dominican Republic, rented the private jet, flew to St. Vincent. We packed the private jet like inside where the seating is with the drones and the batteries and everything. Then they flew to Jamaica and got it out so that we could execute the show on the Sunday. That I would say would be the most epic. If I was writing a book right now, that would be my story right there.
Yeah, boy. I wanted to begin to think of how much that cost.
I'm telling you, it would have had to cost him at least $100,000 to make that move easily.
Yeah, boy. Nice.
So, I mean, we didn't get that money, but the private airline or whoever they hired the plane from, they got that money. But that's another testimony to the impact of what a drone show could do for a brand, because it was actually a relaunch of the brand. And it was not just about, it's like fireworks. If I can't get a fireworks company from Miami, let's say, to do it, then we hire someone locally. It wasn't about that. It was about making sure that they're able to tell a story that's for the life of the brand. Whoever was there at that moment will never, ever forget that show. Yeah. When I went to St. Thomas to meet with the client, who is actually it's a telecommunications company called One Communications.
Yeah.
They we had done a show for them in Guyana. We did a very first show for them in Guyana, and so now they're launching in St. Thomas. And when I went there, there was an individual who was on the line about, whether they should go with LunaLite or maybe not, but it just so happened that they were actually in Voice's concert, right? So now the conversation, there you go. So now the conversation was, I know you're talking to these other guys, which was us, about the drone show, but I saw a show in Trinidad, and we need to reach out to them to see what they do. Oh, it's the same guys. It's the same LunaLite. They're the ones. So, okay. And they're ready to move forward. So I came back to Miami, with a sign off.
If you follow you guys on social media, it seems like every weekend or at least every week during the week, you'll have a show done, right? So you'll constantly flying all over the place, getting shows done.
Well, hold on. I have a picture on an image I'm just going to share with you real quick. I'll just put it up to the camera so you can see it. I'll scroll through pretty quickly. But I would say this right here that's
jeez. Okay, yeah.
That's 2 months right there, right? So right now we are, again, so coming from the point of view of drone light shows being new to a lot of people, maybe not to you, but it's still picking up. It's like it's very strange. It's like it's still in the growing phase. If you do a drone show, I guarantee you 95%, if not 98% of the people that are there have never seen a drone show before, right? Versus if you were to compare it to fireworks, you would say it would be the other way. It would be 99% of the people there have seen fireworks in person, Yeah. So it's still growing. So now the demand is kicking in. And so every month we get more and more and more shows that are done. But what we do as well too is that we don't just wait to be booked by someone to do a show. Sometimes if there's something that's happening, for example, we did a Black History Month show where we featured like Marcus Garvey and Harriet Tubman on the US side. We featured those guys that flew the planes. Can't remember the name of them, but we kind of put some highlight on Martin Luther King and so on. So nobody hired us to do that. We also have an Easter show that we do where we showcase the whole story of Easter with Christ and him being on the cross and the whole the tomb being rolled away and him coming back to life. Like we literally have a full show. So we're gonna show that again this year. Then we have a zoo tour that we're gonna do. So we've partnered up with different zoos throughout Florida and Atlanta, and we're gonna do like night shows there, like almost like an Animal Kingdom night show kind of.
Oh, that sounds real cool. How many shows have you guys done to date?
We've done about maybe 75 shows, maybe to date.
Okay,
about 75, 80 shows. This year, our goal is we plan to do about maybe 200, 250, maybe 300 shows.
That's a big jump.
I know. We're going hard, man. Listen, the competition is real. As much as we see LunaLite, and we work hard in pushing the brand. Our background is marketing and branding, and telling stories, so we know how to sell ourselves. But we can't get complacent at all. We have to keep in mind that out of sight, out of mind, right? So when you think someone is not working hard on bidding on the next job, because most of the shows that we do, especially here in the States, because it's over a certain value, we have to bid on it. So you're bidding against 9, 10 other drone light show companies here in the States. In the Caribbean, it's a little bit different because it's very hard for someone or an entity living in the Caribbean islands to even own a drone light show company, because one, you're putting out so much money for the technology, right? And then in return, you're not getting the consistency in how the shows are sold. You're not getting. It's not like you're doing. How can I say it? It's not like someone would hire someone to come and shoot take a DJ and shoot a show for $1,000 at a music venue, and then maybe the next day they have another shoot, and then the next day. The drone light shows are few in between, right? So if you're in the Caribbean island, it's very hard for you to really build up the revenue there unless you brought your pricing down. The problem with bringing the pricing down now, aside from, kind of messing up the market in a sense, is that it's going to take you longer to get out of the red into the green, because you've invested so much money. So a lot of our work that's going to really keep us maintained and keep us going is obviously work that's here locally in the States, right? And then we do. But eventually, pricing will come down, and then, it will be a lot easier we do want people within the, well, do we? I'm not sure. Maybe not. But one thing we do though is every Caribbean island that we go to, we make it a mandate to make sure that we have either the drone club or the tech club from a university or a college or even high school. So if you go and look at some of our Instagram feeds, you will see us in Cayman doing like a workshop with the kids and showing them the technology and passing down the knowledge, that's important for us. My business partner and I are philanthropy is a big part of our makeup. And, we also want to make sure that people within UAV clubs and robotics club have access to the technology where they may not have had access before.
Yeah, and get that kind of exposure. Yeah, that's important. One of the things I did see going through your social media was the dog.
Oh, yes. That's Luna. That's Luna, man. Come on. She would be so excited if you called her the dog,
My apologies to Luna. What does Luna do on the site?
You know what? Luna can't do as much as everybody else. So we kind of just, have her around to maybe carry some battery packs or something, or, for shits and giggles, we'll have her go and pick up batteries and bring it over to someone that's kind of on the line. But Luna usually spends more time inside our warehouse, and then we will just have her like organizing things, not as if it's being super efficient, but because we're in the UAV and the aero robotic space and so on, we bought her and kind of just have her around. She's not doing anything she's not taking any jobs away. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, this one was really cool to have her on site, and how she was integrated into the whole process. That was cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a most memorable show that you've done?
Wow. Good question. Wow. So, very good question. Wow. I would say that's a tough question, and I'll tell you why. There's three things that make up.
Here, I'll make it easier for you. We know Trinidad is the best. So Trinidad, one. What's the next best one?
For me, as a Jamaican, I would say the first 1,000 drone show, the very first 1,000 drone show that we did during Christmas, in Miami, is one of the most memorable. a show that we did in Cayman for the Emancipation is memorable. The show we did at the stadium where we created that image of Bob Marley that went viral is also a memorable moment. When we did the drone show with Steve Harvey's face in Atlanta,
right? Yeah,
was also an epic moment. And really, you know, any shows that are flawless, because there's, I would say, a few times you might launch a show and you may have one or two drones that are out of 600 that are not in the show. And that's just the nature of it. Every drone show company goes through that. That's just technology, right? But it's so that's why it's different. So in a show, it could be a show that's only 400 drones, but the show went perfect. Every single drone went up in the sky. The music, it was in sync. The clients loved it. Like, for example, the show with Voice is a memorable show for Trinidad, especially because we worked 2 years in getting there and making it happen. Definitely, that will never be forgotten. And then you've had, you know, committee members from the Yuma band that were crying when the show happened, because the story with that is we did a show when we only had 90 drones. We did a show in Miami Carnival where we did an engagement there. Look at that. That's another example. That's a memorable moment because the first of its kind. This gentleman reached out to us.
He's Trinidadian too, right?
His wife is Trinidadian,
right?
But he met her in Carnival, so that's why he wanted to propose to her at Carnival.
Right.
So we went and we did that, and then Sean from Yuma, he saw that and he said, "You know what? One day I'm gonna have a drone show in Trinidad for Yuma one day," and that was a big part of his dream. So the fact that we were coming down there, we reached out, and it happened. I remember seeing his face because I was actually filming the show with my phone. And then I felt somebody's hand on my shoulder and I turned around and I saw him and he just had this look like, you know, mission accomplished. So things like that to us, when it comes to driving emotion, first is what means the most to us. And then the technology comes thereafter.
Cool. That's a nice one. And I think that's one thing I need to get to Jay after this interview, because I actually started a Caribbean light show archive. So I've been trying to keep track of all the drone light shows that have happened in the Caribbean. And in talking to you, I realized that I've missed a whole lot of them that I don't have listed on the site.
Well, listen, if I had it my way, I was just going to tell you, might as well just copy the whole Instagram profile and put it over there, because if I had my way, my friend, we will be all up and down the Caribbean, you know? Yeah. We want to, that's our Caribbean is our home. So we're going to fight for it.
Hopefully we see you again in Trinidad just now. Sorry, I know I don't have you for very long, so I just have a couple more questions. And this is something that I've started asking most of the guests that have come on, most if not all. What is one thing you wish you knew about the drone light show industry before you got into it that you know now?
Okay. That we didn't start sooner. I would say that even though in a weird way we kind of were at the forefront of it, we were in the forefront, but let me give you a better answer. I would say that I would have tried to get a larger investment to have a bigger fleet sooner than later. Maybe that's that might be a good answer. But no, I think the way everything went better than we expected. Went way better than we expected. So no regrets. Nothing. No, I'm sure we've missed opportunities. I mean, right now we're bidding on the World Cup 2026, but there's like 30 other companies that are, of course. So whether we get it or not, doesn't matter. We know that we own our space. We have our own way of telling stories. We have one of the safest technologies out there. As a matter of fact, the record of 8,000 to 10,000 drones, that's a technology that we use that's out there now. So we're not in any way, we're in a good space. And any challenges that we went through in the past to any challenges that are to come, as long as there's no personal injury and no property damage, then we're in a really good space. We're growing our company. We expect to have offices in different islands throughout the Caribbean at some point. We have an office in Jamaica. We're working on an office in Cayman as we speak, and that's a big part of our focus. The United States here, it's good to have the business here, obviously, but we have an agenda and some milestones that we're trying to meet as it relates to the Caribbean region.
What's next for drone light shows? Like, what does the future of that look like?
The future of drone light shows is going to pivot a lot to advertising. Yes, entertainment, because you do know you have indoor drone light shows that may not be able to do as much as an outdoor drone show because you're using a smaller fleet and smaller drones to get it done. But the future of drone light shows, I think it's just wide open. I mean, I think where it's at right now is really, it's at its highest level in terms of the possibilities, because the only thing you could do now is just do a bigger drone show. And, what are you going to do? A 15,000 drone show at 20,000? At some point, it can get too big that it's not enjoyable, aside from pyro being added to some of these drone fleets to create that extra wow. I think we're kind of like already there. It's just the stories are going to evolve, the speed of the drone, and you can relate to this, but battery life, speeds of the motors, and to be able to move quickly and do different things. And I think eventually you may not even have a scoreboard like you would have in a baseball stadium. You probably have drones that are the board. So it's like huge, massive in the sky, and you're seeing the points change in real time and all of that. So, but we're not thinking that too far ahead. We have some other agendas that we are working on right now as it relates to UAV and aero robotics generally. Outside of drone light shows, we're really working on something. So actually, we would probably, we're going to have some other conversations aside from this podcast for sure. But we are, we're working on some other technology implementations. We're also we're going to launch a robotics expo in the Caribbean early next year. So we're working on that. So we're talking to some manufacturers from all around the world, from Germany to China to South Korea to Japan, Australia, and so on. So we're going to have that because one of our goals and one of my goals is for us, the biggest and the hardest things is exposure, Not everyone may have a visa to travel to the Exponential conference up in San Diego or in Houston this year to connect with manufacturers that deal with, drone technology that you are familiar with, where that being used for, oil and gas surveying and power lines. And so instead of not giving people the opportunity to come this side, we'll just bring it to the region. So we're working on that right now.
Nice, man. Looking forward to that. And
absolutely,
definitely I'll be there.
All right. You know what? I'm going to say this right here. When that event comes, have you ever been to NAB in Vegas before? But you know of NAB.
Yeah, I know of NAB. I know of Exponential, Commercial UAV Expo. Yeah.
Okay, good. So usually they have like a live podcast scenario desk that's there.
Right.
That, live streams and so on. So who knows? Maybe Palace of the Caribbean will just be our partner.
Fuck
in
it.
that regard, right?
We there.
It's like we there.
We there. Bucket. As soon as we get our date, we there.
All right.
You are a successful creative. You've been in that creative space and you've been very successful at it. Do you have any advice to give to young creatives coming up or persons that have just entered the creative space? You know, they may have transitioned from something else.
Right.
Yeah. What is your advice to anybody looking at this who is currently a creative or thinking about, going in that direction?
Okay. So it's two-part because I'm also coming from the angle of an independent filmmaker that has had hundreds of meetings trying to get funding to support our short film or feature film and which is part of the reason why we do what we do with the youth, because what we went through as individuals throughout the space, trying to grow and earn money within the creative space, which is one of the hardest things. So being that there had been a shift with AI and the fact that creatives have no, artwork and things of that nature have now taken the forefront in terms of communicating a message to a client, the dynamics have changed a little bit. Where like a graphic designer 10 years ago, now a good graphic designer 10 years ago compared to now is, highly respected because, branding is where it's at, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But one thing I would say is that it's 50-50. Just like when you walk into a movie theater, you could be watching the film, but there's no sound. It's just not going to give you that complete impact as if you were to hear sound and not see picture, right?
Okay.
Is that it's a 50-50. You have to have the business locked down, and yes, you have to have the creative. But it's like left and right brain. You have to have both of them working in conjunction with each other. You cannot just be, at some point, even though it may be a passion project, you have to take the emotions out of it and make sure that the business is right, because that's just the only way that it would work. One thing for sure I could say is that within Steady Image Media Group, my production company, a part of the reason why we made a shift, obviously, is due to the fact that the revenue from a drone light show point of view is completely different from that other world.
Yeah.
And two, we've been in it for 25 years, so we got a little tired of it. And then technology is kind of our pivot into technology is kind of our focus right now. But I was just, when you asked that question, I was just thinking about, from a creative point of view, like it's hard because you're going to have people because you could have a project that you're working on. You may have the business savviness and ideas, and I may be the one that's building the brand from a creative point of view or from a creative direction, but you don't really put value on what I'm bringing to the table because I'm the quote unquote creative and not necessarily the business money. Person. Correct. Yeah. So I would say that for every creative out there, other than, you've heard it before, and I don't want to sound like corny or anything, but at my age now, I've realized that, you know what? You really truly can't give up. Like if you really want something, like if you really want it bad, you just have to keep going. And then you realize that everything that you were doing before is a building block to where you are today. So right now, where I'm at in terms of my person and my being and understanding and everything is I'm pulling from everything I've learned in the past that went wrong. And then I can apply that to what I'm doing now to make sure that we don't make those mistakes, it's a give and take kind of thing. But I would say 100% for sure, if you really love what you're doing. And one thing I would say is, and I've said this many times, if what you're doing is a passion project, actually two things. You need to know when to let go of something, one. And two, if you have a passion project that's from a creative point of view, if it's not making any money, move on. Because at the end of the day, You're not gonna make a living from ideas, especially now. Ideas mean nothing because I could come up with an idea, 10 ideas in Chat GPT in 2 minutes or less.
Yeah.
Right now, So it's about having your ideas and actually putting real action to it and follow through on it. And that's it. And make sure that your business has the same input as you do the creative.
Nice. Good advice, man.
Yep.
Adrian, last time, before anybody looking to get in contact with LunaLite to get a look at some of the work that you guys have done, where can people find you?
Well, you can find us on our website, LunaLiteDroneShow.com. Also on our Instagram and all social media platforms. It's LunaLite Drone Show. Hopefully you won't have to dig too deep because who knows, you might look out your window tomorrow night. You might see us in the skies.
Nice one.
Yeah.
Hey, Adrian, thank you very much for coming on this episode of the Pilots of the Caribbean podcast. I hope everybody else who's looking at this enjoyed this interview as much as I did.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Alan. I really appreciate it. And we're looking forward to discussing and talking more in the near future.
Yeah, man. No problem. Talk soon.
All right.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye.